I'm not sure about you guys, but there's at times that I just want to play one game and just stick glued to that for dozens or maybe hundreds of hours. So I made a list of the most addictive games on Xbox Game Pass that I think you guys will like. I'm Sunny here at Xbox Central, and we kicked this off with Diablo 4 that recently joined Game Pass not long ago. And just like the rest of the Diablo games, I feel like this one is a must play. However, before you make a run for this game, you should know a few things. Diablo 4, unlike previous games in the series, this one's received more praise for its storyline than in previous Diablo games, which is a little bit surprising, but nonetheless, I think it's a good change for fans who've always wanted to enjoy a good story in Diablo in that setting for a long time. But that doesn't mean the combat is any less exciting. Sure, it has been a little bit more methodical and has a little bit of a slower pace, but it's still fun and rewarding. Now, the world building, the voice acting, and Diablo's signature dark vibes make the whole gameplay experience that much more immersive. You can play this game solo, but I definitely recommend playing this with friends in co-op, as it makes the challenges a little bit easier and the game just overall more fun. Obviously though, we can't mention a Diablo game without all the loot hunting, which is why I personally play these types of games. It's really better than ever and more rewarding than in games past. If you guys are looking for a fun, addictive game, Diablo 4 is really about as good as it gets. If you're a Pokemon fan, you're gonna love Pal World. This game is literally like Pokemon but on steroids. You got the classic monster taming mechanics mixed with a ton of amazing stuff. In this game, you play as this lone survivor left stranded on a massive island filled with these monsters called pals that you can catch for a variety of reasons. You can have them as pets, you can make them fight battles, you can use them for handiwork, you can even eat them when hunger gets the best of you. And the game is much darker than Pokemon, but that's not all. It also comes packed with superb base building mechanics that allow you to build anything from a simple hut to stunning castles. Then there's the combat, which is all real time and just insanely fun. Then you have your pals to fight for you, and if that wasn't enough, the game even lets you have guns to really blast your enemies to bits. This is a must play if you're looking for a game that's going to keep you hooked for many days. Now, if you're looking for a more classic survival experience, you're going to want to look no further than Valheim. It's one of the best survival games out there on Game Pass that has received a ton of overwhelmingly positive reviews from players and critics for its addicting gameplay. And this combines intense survival experiences with this epic combat and this intricate base building. It throws you right into this massive Viking world full of forests, mountains, and swamps, and it's all randomly generated. So every time you play, it's really like a brand new adventure. And while you're out there exploring, you'll be gathering resources, you'll be building your settlements, and you'll be crafting everything from weapons to Viking ships. And that's right, guys, you can even sail the seas like a true Viking explorer, and you get to do all this with your friends by your side in an exciting PvE mode if that's what you want to do. But if you want to go at this completely solo, you can absolutely do that as well. There's really no restrictions and an endless amount of fun to be had in this game. However, if you're looking for a more hardcore survival experience, you might want to give DayZ a try. It's a brutal post-apocalyptic survival game that throws you into a massive open world overrun by zombies and other desperate survivors. And your mission in this game is to stay alive by any means necessary. Now, this game is super hardcore, but that's exactly what makes it so popular in the first place. You'll need to scavenge for food, water, supplies, and other equipment while fending off zombies and other hostile survivors who, by the way, are actual other players. And really, the game puts a heavy focus on realism, making every decision a matter of life and death. But what really makes DayZ stand out is its unpredictability. You never know if someone's going to be friendly or if they'll just shoot you on sight, which certainly adds a whole new level of tension, especially since death in this game is permanent and all you're left with is the memories of your past life when you die. All these things make DayZ a highly rewarding experience and one that'll keep you going for many hours. So out of all the games on this list, this one is literally me adding my very own personal preference, so I apologize if you hate this edition, but I truly have now gotten to spend hundreds of hours on MLB The Show 23 last year, and now I'm very well on my way with 24 that dropped on Game Pass this year. Guys, plain and simple, it's addicting even if you're not a baseball fan. Taking a player from the minor leagues and working his way to the majors and then to the show, like the game is called, is just a blast. And that's where I'm at in this game, and getting that player all the way to, by the way, to a Hall of Fame trajectory is just so much fun. The career mode is one of the most fun I've had in, and I've played them all. It's one of the few sports games that even though it has these microtransactions, it's not technically needed, as I've never spent an extra dime, and yet I still managed to get my player close to 99 overall. Then you have the Diamond Dynasty, the card collection portion of this game, the franchise mode, a new storylines, and there is just plenty to keep you playing for tons of hours. If you guys are looking for an amazing sports game, MLB The Show 24 for me me is where it's at, and one that I just couldn't recommend more. Now, nothing keeps a player more busy than a good old management game, and when you sprinkle a little football on top of there, it's a recipe for addiction. That's exactly why Football Manager 2024 offers a great value on Game Pass. This is a game where you get to live out your dreams of becoming a top football/soccer manager and leading your team to glory. This latest addition to the long-running franchise comes packed with new features, faces, animations, lighting, improved set pieces, and a whole lot more. The game gives you all the tools that you need to build your squad from the ground up and come up with a new strategic move to outperform your opponents and really craft the perfect winning strategy. Once you get into this game, hours will feel like minutes, and before you know it, you will be addicted to this game like crazy. Now, Dead by Daylight's a game that I personally have put in maybe close to over 500 hours, and it literally fits the perfect definition of addictive. It's an unconventional survival horror game where one of you plays this relentless killer while the rest are survivors fighting hard to make a run for their lives. It's a classic cat and mouse chase where both sides can pick from a bunch of terrifying characters inspired by movies and TV shows, each having their own unique strengths and weaknesses for a totally different playstyle. And while the game might sound repetitive, Dead by Daylight is actually quite versatile. The maps in this game are all randomly generated, and they're seriously spooky. You'll find yourself in all sorts of horror-themed settings, from creepy forests to eerie abandoned buildings, and trust me guys, no two games ever play the same. Meanwhile, you can personally customize your loadout, whether you're trying to survive or you're one of the killers. You can really dial in how much you want to be on either side. Not only that, the games themselves aren't too long, so it's a great game to just pop in for a bit, get a quick and heart-pumping adrenaline rush in a short time, and then just be done. So if you're looking for a thrilling survival experience to enjoy with friends or play completely solo, this game has you covered. Alright guys, so don't kill me in the comments, but farming sims are probably some of the most addicting games you'll play, and Farming Simulator 22 is currently ruling this genre on Game Pass. And the reason I'm adding this game, believe it or not, it's actually one of the most played games on a daily basis, and that's for a good reason. In this game, you get to run your own farm, managing everything from planting crops to raising animals. It's all about the hustle and bustle of rural life, and there's always something to keep you busy. But what really stands out about this game is the attention to detail. The graphics are absolutely stunning, the machines are super realistic, and every challenge just makes a lot of sense. And speaking of challenges, there's a ton of things that you have to take care of besides farming. There's like managing your finances, purchasing new equipment, selling your goods, and eventually expanding your farm to take on bigger challenges. And this might be one of the more underrated games on Game Pass, and I definitely feel like this game deserves a spotlight. So Vampire Survivors is a minimalist bullet hell roguelike that throws you right into hell, overrun by hordes of demons and other strange monstrosities with really nowhere to escape. The only thing you can do in this game is fight and survive for as long as you can. It's a brutal game with no break. You are constantly surrounded by waves of enemies, each more powerful than the last. Luckily though, you do get outfitted with a deadly arsenal that helps you survive and thrive in this world. As you unlock new powers, you upgrade your weapons, and you learn new spells. With each level being procedurally generated, the enemies and the loot also coming in random, Vampire Survivors promises to keep you hooked for a long time. It's a great choice for someone who craves a classic bullet hell adventure with of course a little bit of touch of pixelated art style. Grand strategy games tend to be super addictive, and if I were to pick one from Game Pass, it would be Crusader Kings, and this is definitely my choice. This is a complex and super rich strategy game that lets you play as a noble ruler, controlling a dynasty through the generations. Crusader Kings 3 has you making all the important decisions, whether it's marriage, forging alliances with other kingdoms, waging wars, or just plain old playing politics. You have to do everything in your power to secure your family's legacy. What makes Crusader Kings 3 different is that it doesn't end with your character's death. You actually move on to your next royal heir, picking up the pace back up and keeping the lineage going. Then there's random events and crises that always keep the gameplay unpredictable and challenging. And as someone who has spent hundreds of hours in Crusader Kings 3, this for me has been the most addicting strategy game that I have ever played. And I'm actually not a big fan of this genre. Guys though, don't be intimidated by its gameplay. It's not as complicated as it looks. They've really streamlined these games to be much better over the years, and hopefully you guys do give this one a shot. Now, I'm a huge fan of farming simulators, but Stardew Valley I feel like is that one game that just stands above them all. And I still remember this being one of those games that many of us used through trying times like the pandemic and other things over the years that just got us through it. I would really spend hours of my time in this virtual world, and it gave me all the freedom to create my own little universe where I could peacefully farm and hang out with these lovely townfolk and even set up my own business. And I know for a fact that there are millions of other fans like me who have been hooked to their screens playing this super addicting farming platforming/life simulator on their Xbox and PCs, and to this day it still remains just as fun and addictive. You'll easily lose track of time while you're out there fishing, raising your cattle, growing crops, and doing a whole lot more. And the cool part about this, over the years they've actually added multiplayer to this game, so it's been one truly for the ages, and I just feel like this game will never go away and it'll always be loved and played. So Doom Eternal is kind of like an old school shoot 'em up classic, but it comes with like a ton of modern features, gorgeous visuals for some really epic gameplay. In this game you take on the role of a demon slayer with a mission to exterminate every single demon who dare stand in your way. Eternal preserves the brutality and the gore-filled gameplay of the original while adding a level of fluidity to the mix for a highly immersive shooting experience. Now it's not a super long game and it takes about 15 hours to complete, but trust me, you'll want to play this from beginning to end in one sitting. It just keeps you going as you blow hordes of enemies and demons with your deadly arsenal of weapons, and it only helps that it comes packed with these stunning visuals and an elevating soundtrack, really keeping your adrenaline pumped from start to finish. Now another first-person shooter on Game Pass that I find addicting is Deathloop. It's a next-gen shooter that puts you in the shoes of Colt, an assassin stuck in a never-ending time loop with only one way to escape, and that is to take out 8 targets before the day ends, essentially resetting the loop. It's much more complicated than it sounds, but once you get a hold of it, Deathloop will keep you hooked with its like one more try gameplay. I love how despite all the strategic restraints, Deathloop still manages to give players the freedoms to follow their own playstyle. You can be super sneaky, or you can go all in guns blazing as you try to take out enemies and obstacles. It's a fun mix of intense gunplay, strategy, and story that could easily keep you engaged for a ton of hours. If you guys haven't had a chance to play Remnant 2, you absolutely should. It's one of those rare games where the gameplay truly outshines so many others in the genre, combining Souls-like mechanics with third-person combat, mixed with diverse enemies and some of the most well-designed boss fights you can imagine. Then you mix in this dark and eerie and stunning environments. You get this mashup of one of the very best games on Game Pass. The game's also quite addictive, procedurally generated worlds, very satisfying gunplay, challenging boss fights, and plenty of loot to get a hold of. Quite frankly, you have a full recipe for a successful game. If you guys haven't already dived into Remnant 2, you guys will not regret it. So Hollow Knight is a genre-defining indie game that blew up in popularity thanks to its incredibly satisfying gameplay, its gorgeous hand-drawn art style, compelling narrative, and epic combat. Pretty much everything in this game is simply great. You play as a brave hornet on a mission to save the kingdom of Hallownest from a mysterious plague that threatens the kingdom and its inhabitants. And while there's minimal dialogue in this game, Hollow Knight beautifully conveys the whole narrative through environmental storytelling. The combat is tight and requires skill, and as you progress, you unlock new abilities that open up previously inaccessible areas. Then you have challenging puzzles and rewarding exploration. If you guys are a Metroidvania fan, this game's sure to keep you engaged to the very end. Slay the Spire is a deck-building roguelike game that combines strategy and randomness to create this unique and super challenging gameplay. Now, it might look simple at first glance, but trust me, Slay the Spire is as rich as it gets. It's about building and refining your deck as you progress, unlocking new cards with better powers, abilities, and perks to beat increasingly challenging enemies. You start with this basic deck, and then you start collecting new cards after battles and events, customizing your strategy based on your preferred playstyle, and the goal is to reach the top of the spire by defeating powerful bosses on each floor. And thanks to procedurally generated levels, it doesn't get repetitive at all. You get different paths, enemies, and events changing every time you play the game, taking replayability really to the next level. And this game has been around for a while, but I barely started playing it this year to see kind of what the hype was, and I totally get it. I'm not typically a fan of deck building games, but this one just has like that little extra magic, and if I can get into it, you can absolutely as well. So I absolutely do recommend Slay the Spire. It's truly addictive and worth putting on this list. So No Man's Sky is this expansive open world exploration game that lets you absolutely do anything and everything. Players can explore, gather resources, craft tools and equipment, build bases, fight enemies, complete quests, and so much more. And unlike other games on this list, this one features an endless universe with virtually limitless number of planets for players to explore. Now sure, the game had a rough start as the world felt pretty barren and pointless when it first released, but after consistent updates from the devs, including a big recently one that dropped just a few months ago, No Man's Sky is currently filled to the brim with exciting content that'll keep you going for hundreds, not maybe even thousands of hours. But that doesn't mean No Man's Sky has no objective. In fact, the whole point of your space exploration is to gather resources, upgrade your spaceship, and maybe even reach the center of the galaxy. It's a true sandbox, and it's what makes the game hard to put down and one that deserves to be on this list. So of course we have to add the game Minecraft on this list, as it's been one of the most played games by players of all ages, basically of all time. And it's not just a game, it's a platform where players come together and have fun doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Minecraft really offers a blank canvas for gamers to shape and build according to their imagination. The game seamlessly blends survival elements, challenging players to gather resources and to craft tools, build shelters, and endure brutal environments and fight hordes of unique enemies. But more importantly, it's the sense of community and collaboration that keeps this going for hours. Enjoying the shared adventures with friends and strangers from all parts of the world, really the freedom to do whatever your heart desires, is exactly what makes Minecraft so addicting in the first place. Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord is another action-packed RPG title that's all about leading and fighting large-scale medieval battles and strategic warfare. Now, as the leader of the army, you get to explore a massive open world filled with villages, cities, and castles, engaging in a variety of activities from trading to epic sieges. But combat is where this game shines the brightest. Players get to lead their armies into battle, you command troops, you even jump into battles themselves using an array of deadly medieval weapons. All while maintaining its sandbox nature, Bannerlord offers a plethora of quests and side activities that add context and goals for players, really giving a sense of direction if you're looking for it. The game even features a multiplayer PvP mode for those who crave that extra competition. This game has been one of my favorite, or I should say this franchise has been one of my favorites over the past decade, and I personally have spent hundreds of hours on this game and past ones as well. If you guys have ever wondered what medieval combat's all about, I really think you'll enjoy this one. Now, if you're into zombie survival games and you haven't played 7 Days to Die, you're kind of missing out on a gem here. This horror survival game blends elements of first-person shooters, you have crafting, and then sandbox exploration to create this unique and action-packed gameplay experience, and you've got all the good zombie survival elements, from gathering resources to crafting weapons to building shelters, managing stuff like hunger, thirst, and temperature. You also have a massive open world with diverse biomes to explore, including deserts, forests, and abandoned cities. And the good thing is, the game's really never the same, as the whole world is procedurally generated, giving you that ability to replay the game for a totally different post-apocalyptic experience with each run. 7 Days to Die even offers multiplayer co-op gameplay for players who want to take on this wild adventure with a friend or two by their side. If you guys are a fan of zombie post-apocalyptic survival games, honestly, this is one of the best ones you can play. So right on the eve is the new Fallout TV show. If you're looking for an even more complex and deeper post-apocalyptic gameplay experience, you're not going to find anything better than Fallout 4. It's a fan favorite open world survival game that comes packed with a rich storyline, dynamic combat, deep character development, and of course a unique crafting system and a vast modding community. You play as one of only few survivors left, looking for his lost son in a nuclear ravaged world. Now, Fallout 4 bursts with content, from story missions and side quests to even hidden treasures and random events. Everything is fun and interesting, really keeping you busy for a long time. The game also features a companion system that lets you recruit characters with unique skills and abilities that help you both in combat and with the storyline quests. There's just so much to do in this game, you can easily lose track of time and end up spending hours just exploring every single aspect of this massive game. Then we have Monster Hunter Rise, and this is an epic action RPG title that offers exhilarating battles with huge monsters and colossal bosses. This game puts you in the shoes of a hunter with only one goal, that is to hunt down and slay monsters using an arsenal of deadly weapons and fighting skills. The combat in this game is truly one of a kind. It's fast-paced and challenging, but equally rewarding and satisfying as well. You've got different moves, weapons, and skills to mix and match and create your own unique playstyle. But it's not all battles. There's explorations, there's quests, there's time-limited events, there's crafting, companions, and a lot more. And did I mention the game has co-op multiplayer? There's that as well. To this day, Monster Hunter Rise is a highly played game on a daily basis, and guys, it's kind of easy to see why. So Skyrim's kind of been out and around for well over a decade now, and the fact that it still has a huge player base playing this game on a daily basis is a testament to the game's incredibly addicting gameplay. It's one of the most lore-rich action RPG titles that offers everything: a captivating storyline, expansive and detailed open world, complete freedom of choice to become whoever you want, dynamic combat and player progression system, and a whole lot more. And over the years, the game has received a ton of updates with a multitude of content, including new lore, side quests, characters, events, and an extensive library of user-generated content thanks to the active modding community. You can really spend hundreds of hours simply exploring Skyrim's multiple quest lines, faction choices, character builds, random encounters, NPC interactions, and so much more. It's easy to see why this is one of the most addicting games on Game Pass and one you shouldn't miss if by some reason you just haven't tried it yet. And last but not least, we have Halo Infinite. Now this is one of my favorite games from the Halo franchise. Infinite came out with a major shift in the series with the addition of open world exploration, which truly was a bold step from the devs, but one that turned out pretty good. Infinite not only gave more freedom to the players, but it also brought back Halo's classic gameplay to the fans. The storyline is both emotional and thrilling, the combat is fun with the grapple and whatnot, and the expansive open world is filled with activities and random events that keeps you guessing on your next move. But the thing that I love the most about Infinite is the boss fights. They are by far some of the best that I've experienced in this series, and that's just really with the main campaign. Wait till you try out some stuff with multiplayer mode. That really gets just as fun. But if you want a list of more fun games to play that are not on this list, check out the best games on Game Pass to play this 2024 right on the screen.